As AI evolves, this new frontier is emerging that promises to revolutionize the way that technology interacts with and understands the world, and that is multimodal AI. And to talk a bit more about that with me this morning, I would like to welcome my panel. The co-founder of Vectara, Amin, Ahmad, and co-founder of Yepic AI, Aaron Jones. Please welcome them to the stage. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, as we sort of speed towards the future, Aaron, not everybody understands the concept of multimodal AI. So just tell us what it does and what sets it apart from your run-of-the-mill garden variety AI systems.
Sure, so I think the fundamental difference is that multimodal AI is able to take multiple inputs, modalities being text, voice, vision, perhaps even the ability to see in a computer vision feed, in a video feed, the changes in someone's blood under their skin, to understand their emotions, to understand how they might be feeling, and then to take all these signals, like a human has multiple signal sensory devices, ears, eyes, nose, different sensory devices, and the brain sort of can take them all and process them simultaneously with like sub-millisecond responses. Whereas multimodality, there's two schools of thought. The new school of thought, which you'll see in OpenAI's 4.0 model, processes all of these in one model, which is really powerful because you have much smaller latencies, and you're able to not just describe something in text, but to describe an image, caption it, and then also take the audio from the scene and have a bigger and greater understanding of what's actually happening. And this is critical to emulate the human experience of taking different inputs and understanding the world around us.
It is pretty astounding stuff, when you look at all the various parts of it. But I mean, it's obviously the new kid on the block, I suppose, as far as AI systems, relatively speaking. Why do you think we're talking about multimodality now at this juncture?
Well, that's actually a good question, because I think, as Aaron pointed out, if you think about the road to AGI, which I think was what we're interested in here, let's think about computers achieving human-level cognition. It's very clear, we are multimodal in our reasoning capabilities. We integrate sensory information as well as textual information and draw our conclusions from that. So the question really might be, as you said, why are we talking about it now? Why weren't we doing this 10 or 15 years ago? I think there's there's several factors. I'll draw attention to 2 or 3 of them. Transformer-based architectures, when they were introduced in 2017, were used to tackle language understanding. So they were used in the field of NLP, but in the intervening years, they've been extended to other modalities. So now we have vision transformers, we have transformers that can process audio, and so this unification of the architectures for processing and understanding different modalities is one of the keys to, as you said, Aaron, combining them into a single system. So that's been critical. Around about 2021, there was a paper that introduced a model called CLIP, and CLIP demonstrated how to align the modalities. So for instance, how can a neural network take the picture of the chair that you're sitting on and a textual description of that chair and make them point to the same concept in its mind? That introduced what's called a contrastive loss function in machine learning to do that. So that was, those kinds of research breakthroughs were also critical to getting us to this point where we can train models that span modalities. The other thing I'll point to, not to get too long-winded here, but obviously the exponential increase in computational power has been critical to getting us to this point. Multimodal text models themselves are very expensive to train. I remember in Google in 2017, when the BERT model was introduced, it used, it was 25 layers deep, and we were all amazed how they managed to train that thing on a TPU. But it used every electron of power in the TPU, and the TPU is a device that only Google had access to at that time. By today's standards, the BERT models are tiny, and the introduction of platforms from NVIDIA, particularly like the A100 and the H100, which are really specialized for training very, very large models. And at the same time, the development of software algorithms for distributed training of neural networks that no longer fit onto a single device. That's all contributed to set the stage to a point where, as of 2024 and 2023, late 2023, we're able to train multimodal models. So I think that's why we're talking about it today.
Aaron, there's been a significant focus at this conference on, I suppose the buzzword, or the buzz acronym even, is AGI. That's what we've all been talking about. How can investing in multimodal contribute to the development of AGI, do you think?
Sure. So if we're to think about AGI and what it is, it's essentially looking to replicate human intelligence and to improve upon human intelligence. And if we're to ever sort of to achieve that goal, we need to truly understand what it means to be human. What does it mean to experience the human condition, to experience everyday humanity? And I think multimodality plays into that. My company's here, we have a wall in the lobby where we have a character that you can talk to that responds in sub 600 milliseconds. Later today, she'll be able to see you, and she'll be able to talk and comment on what's happening in the room, on how you look, on the sentiment in which you're saying things. And I think this idea of emotional intelligence and this idea of understanding the different parts of being human are just such an important part of the AGI future that we need to walk into. Because humans don't just read and write text. Humans talk. They're conversational beings. And the nuance of conversation and the body language and everything that makes understanding other humans just happen so easily and effortlessly, we need to interface with computers in the same way. There are different schools of thought around this, like Elon Musk and Neuralink believe that the best way to interface with a human is by physically interfacing. I disagree. I think that we should have AI beings and human beings quite separate, unless, of course, there's a medical reason that someone could benefit from this. But I think it's just so important that we can train systems to understand the world around us, because AGI requires unsupervised problem solving. And unless it has awareness of depth and awareness of how the world is, it can't solve problems on its own. We'll see super intelligent beings that we talk to, that do work for us, that answer calls, that handle complex data flows before we see robots in people's houses, because everyone's house is different. An AI butler will need to, in real time, move to the right place, do the right thing, and not break anything. And robotics are not at that point yet. They do need multimodality in super fast, like 100-200 milliseconds, everything fully processed from going to grab an item, the item moves, the robot needs to be able to adjust to that. So I think robotics, AGI, and multimodality are all very, very connected.
But I mean, we've run out of text to train on. The internet text well has run dry. So what do we do?
Okay, that's interesting. That actually ties in a little bit to the previous point about why multimodality now. So I think what you're observing is when LLM training kind of kicked off around 2018, they were training on 2% of the internet. And the most obvious thing to do when you get a positive result from training on 2% of the text on the internet is to then go to 5% and 10%. And that's exactly what happened. But it's been a couple of years now that we've reached a point where most of the useful, high-quality text on the internet has been harvested and is already being used to train LLMs. And furthermore, adding more text is going to give you diminishing returns in terms of the quality of the model. So multimodality potentially unleashes a torrent of new data. So if you think about there's 8 billion people in the world, we all maybe talk for about an hour a day. That's 8 billion hours of audio that's being potentially generated and could be harvested every single day.
That's a great way to put it. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, so imagine if that data stream was available for an LLM to train on and to refine its internal representation of the world with. So I think that's That's the promise. Now, I don't want to simplify it and say that the multimodality is merely there to augment our lack of text. Multimodal representations, visual representations also convey and carry extra information that text does not carry. So, there's two different effects that we're going for here with the multimodal training. It's to get the extra information in the modalities as well as to augment text, which, as you're observing, has kind of run dry. Yeah.
I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to chance it and go for a last question to both of you. Aaron, first of all, with you. I mean, given how quickly this has all moved ahead, particularly in the last couple of years, and the research is just, absolutely, your facial expression says it all. It's just going so fast. Where do you see multimodal AI going in the next few years?
So the reason I got into AI more than 10 years ago was because I wanted to make a difference in the world. I started my career in education, working for a charity in India, helping sort of a local charity sort of educate kids in rural schools. And then I went on to do multiple other things in the area. And I think that there are so many problems in the world that really need to be solved. And we need to make sure that AI, AGI, that humanity in general puts humanity first. And I want to see an AGI that serves humanity, that understands humanity, and that has humanity's best interests at heart. And to get there, there's a lot of ethical discussion that needs to be had to the data point. I think what you're saying from a training model point of view is absolutely true. But from an inference point of view, the idea that 8 billion people's conversations are being stored in one centralized place horrifies me. When we look at social media and how a tool that was designed to connect humanity has gone on to be weaponized and monetized at our expense, I just don't want to see us build an AI version of that. And I think the key to stopping that happening is regulation, but more so having compute on the edge. Everyone's carrying a computer around in their pocket. Everyone has, if you have a new iPhone or a new Samsung, you have a neural processing unit that can process text and audio in real time. Maybe the personal conversations, the memory element of AGI sits on our devices or on a server in our home, and the centralized super knowledge sits in the cloud. We need to really be thinking about these types of solutions to avoid a dystopian future where very few companies control the data flow. That is the big risk now. We need to put humanity first.
I mean, where do you stand on that? Where do you see things going in the midterm?
Well, okay, so my thought, I think one of the interesting things I'm looking out for in multimodal AI, obviously, if you've only read about a bottle, but you've never actually seen it, you're limited in terms of the inferences you can draw. But let's just take our sense of vision. There are people known as tetrachromats who can see far more colors than we can see, and they can actually do some interesting things. Like I've read that they can judge the depth of water because they can see many more shades of blue than we can. So they have a better sense. When you can see, let's say insects can see into the ultraviolet range, and so they can see aspects of flowers and draw conclusions that humans cannot. Well, the exciting thing for me is that computers can also be hooked up to senses that humans don't have. And when they can start to synthesize that data with all of the other data, visual data and audio data, they can truly start to come to interesting conclusions that are beyond our intuitive abilities, beyond the things we can intuit, and perhaps give us truly new insights. So I think that's probably not even very far off. We could see it in the next 3 to 4 years.
Incredible. It is absolutely mind-blowing stuff. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me. A big hand for Amin and Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thank you.